Welcome to 10 at 10 on Passion Week. This is Thursday, and I wanted to just share a little bit from the scriptures concerning what happened on Thursday during Passion Week. One of the things that happened was Jesus went to the Garden of Gethsemane, to the Mount of Olives, to pray. And so I want to spend just a little bit of time talking about prayer and how prayer affects us. There's three things that I want us to look at. Number one, prayer brings comfort. Number two, prayer brings clarity. And then number three, prayer brings strength. So we're going to look at the scriptures here about Jesus and the disciples being at the garden praying. In Luke chapter 22, verse 39, I'm reading out the NIV today. It says, Jesus went out as usual to the Mount of Olives, and his disciples followed him. This wasn't the first time Jesus had gone out to the Mount of Olives, because the scriptures tell us he went out as usual. In this first point of prayer brings comfort, when we're going through a hard time or when we're about to go through a hard time, you know when you've got a season that is coming up that's going to take a little extra. Then there are times that a crisis will happen that catches you off guard. But if we will be careful to look at the scriptures, other scriptures, not just this scripture, but other scriptures, we can see that prayer brings comfort. In other words, run to talk to God rather than run away from God to be in isolation. Jesus recognized that he was about to enter into the next 3 days, 4 days that were going to be life-changing, universe-changing. But he was coming into it as a man. So what did he do? He went to prayer. So prayer brings comfort. The second point is prayer brings clarity. Out of verse 32, so Luke 22:42 says, Father, if you are willing to take this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done. So prayer brings clarity. If we read out of Matthew and Mark, their renditions, their viewpoints of what happened in this moment, we can see that it talks about Jesus going multiple times in prayer to God about, if you're willing, take this cup from me. Then the final time he says, yet not my will, but yours be done. In Luke chapter 22, it just goes straight to that. Prayer brings clarity. When we're about to go through a little bit harder season, if we will spend some time in prayer, just a continual prayer, kind of like Jesus, he continually went to the mount. When we have continual times of prayer, what will happen is it brings clarity to the purpose or the direction that God's got for us. And then what happens is that brings us to the next point, which also brings strength. So Luke 22, verse 43 through 45. Says, an angel from heaven appeared to him and strengthened him. And being in anguish, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground. When he rose from prayer and went back to the disciples, he found them asleep, exhausted from sorrow. Now we see that the disciples were there, but they weren't really in prayer. We also know that the atmosphere had to have been just, it was heavy. It was different this time going to the garden of prayer than it was any other time. The reason why is because there is a conflict that's happening in the spirit, and it is affecting the disciples in their flesh. First of all, it's happening in spirit, soul, and then body, but it's manifesting out of their bodies. Jesus keeps going back to them and keeps on saying, Will you not tarry with me just 1 hour? Can you not just stay awake? He's not even asking them to pray. But had they prayed, I believe that strength would have come to them. I believe that even that angel would have ministered to them. Now, it's interesting in Mark chapter 14, verse 38, in this same area of Scripture, it says, watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the body is weak. When we are going through hard times, the first place where we are going to be tempted or to give up is going to be in our flesh, because it's the weakest spot. But if we are spiritually built up, if we are prayed up, then the spirit of man will uphold and carry through the flesh of a man. So I just wanted to leave you with those 3 points today from Jesus's example. Number 1, prayer brings comfort. Number 2, prayer brings clarity. Number 3, prayer brings strength. Join us again tomorrow, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about cancel culture and how the mob was playing out cancel culture over 2,000 years ago. God bless.